I'd come from a career where I'd been pretty successful in my industry and performing to hundreds of £1,000s of debt on my head.
I have the pleasure to welcome Elizabeth Warburton.
Family support.
Appreciate it. No, it's good to be back here.
We're loving it like this.
Hello and welcome to the latest. Hi, I'm Elizabeth. And the most amazing.
It's all about socials. Everybody wants business videos. Everybody's business has now gone online. Tech, socials, influencer type of work is still so new and so alien, I guess, to so many people that they don't quite get it, or that they actually have no idea of how much value and how much knowledge and finance, really money, that you can make in different industries. It's £1 billion industry now. Our generation sometimes can be a little bit too quick to change things. If things aren't working instantly, then you'll jump to something else and jump to something else. You have to still ride the waves.
How have you found it being in front of the camera?
I really cared about what other people thought of me for a long time. And I think that also stems from the performing world as well. You need to figure out what feels good to you. When I start to feel negative, I kind of reassess who I'm following and who's showing on my feed. Am I comparing myself? Am I triggered by posts?
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So before we begin today's podcast, I'd like to say a big thank you to Casita Properties, the UK leading property company when it comes to off-market, discreet buy-to-let sales. All the links will be in the description. I have the pleasure to welcome Elizabeth Warburton. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's been a long day and I'm looking forward to, we've been speaking for a little while now, but I'm looking forward to learn a little bit more about Elizabeth behind the camera, away from property. So that's where we're going to start. So that 30-second overview of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, okay, cool. Well, obviously I'm Elizabeth. I used to do musical theatre full time. I then switched into presenting work and I mainly focus on home and lifestyle work now. And I'm also an investor and developer myself.
Awesome. So starting from sort of the younger age, what was Elizabeth like when you were younger? Was any of this foreseen? Like, how did this kind of pan out where you are now?
Yeah, I've always been a bit of a geek, to be honest, which is maybe not expected. And I was always dancing. So from 2 years old, I was at ballet. And then that very quickly progressed to different types of dance, singing and drama school. I started working professionally as a performer when I was 8. So that was very much school, straight to dancing, Monday through to Saturday. And that was little Lizzie.
Nice. And when did the entrepreneurial spark kick in? Because I often ask people, when did the kind of light bulb moment happen of, was it at school? Was it kind of noticing that you were different from your friends, conversations, mindset? Because I think we all know at certain points or, certain things happen in our life where we think, actually, I want a little bit more than that. Do you know when that happened? Or
Yeah, school, I was actually pretty good. I was like academically clever, as people would put it.
Yeah.
It wasn't really until I got to dance college when I was 18, and my friends still absolutely ruin me till this day for this. But it was a business. We all used to wear false eyelashes for all the shows and for all like the dance competitions and things. And everyone was paying £5 for a pair of eyelashes in Boots. And I found 10 sets of eyelashes for 99p on eBay in China. So I started shipping them over and I would sell them for £1 a pair to all my dance friends. So I was buying 10 for £1 and was making £9 profit. And that ended up being like a pretty decent little bit of cash in hand every week until about 1.5 years in. And then everybody found out that I was buying them on eBay and they were all like, oh my God, we're your friends. You're ripping us off. I was like, no, I was, providing a solution. They wanted eyelashes for £5. I was giving them for £1.
Yeah.
I feel like I won there.
And what did that kickstart? Something else? Was it kind of things led on to that? Because I think as entrepreneurs or people that have this spark to do more, we tend to go through like the ticking box motion. Like, so you try one thing. I actually had an eBay shop myself where I sold like baby grows and like hunter wellies and stuff like this. And that had good margins in it. But yeah. I think after a while, I didn't like the whole like profit loss and working out margins and shipping and stuff like that. And I just thought, oh, I need to do something else. Was there other things that were kind of happening that you thought, I'm definitely going to end up going into kind of entrepreneurship business?
Yeah, we always used to sell clothes actually as well. And like we used to do car boot sales as a kid with my mum. I don't know whether that's familiar
I used to do
you.
it all the time. Yeah, when I was younger.
But I was around people who worked really hard, not smart at all. Very working class. Parents had nothing. And so there was always like, 3-4 jobs at a time on the go. So that was something that I took on. I had 4 jobs from when I was like 15. So it was always the mentality of like doing lots of bits, which to an extent can be a negative in the end. Just always kind of hustling, but not really knowing like a solid direction. But I also think there's a great side to it too, where you're experimenting and you're learning new things all the time and you're figuring out what you like and what you don't. So yeah, there was the car boots. We sold a lot on eBay as well. There was Lizzie's lashes. And I started investing at quite a young age actually. Because I went into musical theatre, so I didn't go into business at all. I was contracted in musicals between 6 to 12 months at a time. And then I would save up quite a big chunk because I was working internationally. So I lived in Japan for a year, Singapore, Shanghai, Dubai for a year. And they looked after you really well. They gave you accommodation, food, and a whole lovely package to work abroad. So I invested in other people's property flips from quite early in my 20s. And that was kind of how I started.
So a lot of people will always say, when we hear people's journeys and stories, a lot of people will listen, but then you can always hear them behind the camera going, yeah, but how did you get the money, or how did you start investing? Where was that kind of like ground zero point? So in a day and age where we're seeing a lot of opportunity, but also a lot of people are not knowing where to start, how did that kind of investing world start for you? Because obviously now you're very heavily involved in property, aren't you? Yourself and as a presenter for a TV show. Why property? Do you feel... I'm going to kind of 2 questions. Why property? How did the property thing really start? And are your views now the same about property, where things are changing so much?
Yeah, okay. So I'll start with the first question. I think for me, property was always something that I was interested in, but only from an investment perspective. Like to be an estate agent or to be full-time in property wasn't something that I was wanting to do. It was always more of like on the side to have a little bit more financial security. And I think that's because I came from a lack of that. And I saw very early on how people had a very different upbringing and a very different lifestyle to me. The dance and performing arts world in general is a very expensive one to get into. So you can be around quite a lot of quite wealthy kids and you see how their upbringing was, and you can see what their parents are doing for a job and how they handle money. So I was around that. And that was kind of the main thing for me, where I kind of switched and was like, okay, there is another side to money. Money isn't evil. So yeah, it was more of a security perspective from why I wanted to get into property rather than like I love houses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what is the view on property? Because I know that you're heavily involved in it. If I had to say my opinion of property, understand it, I get it. I've had involvement in it, especially some years ago, I was quite heavily involved in it. And there's to some degree, I like it, but at the same time, I feel that now it's too slow. Like I can move quick doing, and I can do things quite in a large capacity in terms of the financials, but I can move as quick as I can move. And I find that property, you're limited to a lot of things in terms of raising cash or certain decisions being made take time, legal stuff like that. There's just a lot of slow moving parts in a day and age where things can happen really quick if you're in the right industries, especially in business. Is property always going to be your kind of go-to when it comes to that security, that income, or have you got other things that you're quite interested in exploring for business and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I think property in terms of long-term holding your money is still a fantastic vehicle. So I think I will always do that. But day-to-day wise, in terms of how I earn my cash, no, I think there's definitely other ways where I could potentially earn much more money a lot quicker. But tech and, socials, influencer type of work is still so new and so alien, I guess, to so many people that they don't quite get it, or that they actually have no idea of how much value and how much knowledge and finance, really money, that you can make in different industries now, e-commerce as well, another brilliant one.
Yeah.
I just think our generation sometimes can be a little bit too quick to change things. If things aren't working instantly, then you'll jump to something else and jump to something else. So I do think you have to be careful with not just wanting things too quickly and too soon. You have to still ride the waves sometimes.
I think also you've got to be your biggest fan. I talk about this a lot, is on this journey of whatever you end up doing, it's very testing. Like all of it's really testing. And it is a case of you have to get yourself up in the morning, tell yourself you can do it, like lead generation, raising finance, having the confidence to get out on socials, because that's another thing. I think there are so many people out there at the moment who have a lot of potential, but getting themselves out there to do it, because I think it's very simple, isn't it? If no one knows about you, you might as well be under a rock. Like, how can you do anything great if no one knows about you? Yeah. How have you found it being in front of the camera?
Yeah, so I enjoy my job because I like finding out and learning about other people. So I love what you're doing. I think it's brilliant. When it comes to me, it's a different thing. So like if you've noticed on like my Instagram or TikTok, for example, I've had TikTok for 2 years and I've posted 3 videos, and I know you will kill me for that.
More.
Yeah. So yeah, that confidence of just getting me out is still lacking. I'm working on it, but it is still lacking.
When are you going to start posting more on TikTok?
Yeah. So I've got a day booked in next week for like some solid filming for some presenting ideas and some vox pop work and stuff. So I will be getting it out as of next week.
So I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to put you on the spot here. So
go on.
You already know how to nail the camera. You've done a lot of TV work, and your face is kind of already out there anyway in terms of being in front of the camera. I'm going to be bold to say that if you went solidly, and look, I'm still learning. This is the thing, I'm talking from someone who's obviously using TikTok a lot more and taking it very seriously. And we just had obviously Julius Dean on here, who's, who shared huge amounts of value that's dropping tonight. But also we've just had Luke Vernon, who's just come on. We know other TikTokers as well and what they're earning and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And this could be done in, if we say 6 months. So everyone here watching, and this is the message I'm pushing, is that you can love what you're doing right now, but if you just do a little bit more and start that consistency in one of these platforms that is so lucrative. Yeah. So something like that for you, when you move on to TikTok, do you think you'd always stick with what you're doing now, or are you someone that could adapt? And if TikTok or another platform was taking off, would you sort of push energy? Like, do you adapt quite well?
Oh yeah, 100%. I, even looking at where I started with my presenting work to where I'm focused now, I started on red carpets, doing red carpet interviews and live interviewing, to now TV isn't even a small focus of mine. If something like that comes along, great, but it's all about socials, and it's all about I do a lot of corporate video content, which isn't glamorous. It isn't like super hard to do, but it's everybody wants business videos because everybody's business has now gone online, especially since the pandemic. So that exponentially grew for me during 2020 because I had a home recording studio. All of a sudden, everybody was at home. Yeah. Everybody wanted videos. So yeah, I'm all for adapting and changing your route. You know, what my goal is right now by October might have totally changed if I assess my goal and feel like it does need to change. Cool.
And what's your thoughts on education? So I talk about this a lot. I like to hear what everyone has to say about it in terms of obviously that sort of divide between formal route, pursuing that, you know, you end up being 21 or 22, whatever the year you come out of formal education, or just kind of if you've got that sort of inner flair that you want to do something to kind of go straight into entrepreneurship or whatever it might be, or just trying things, you know, whatever it might be. But what are your views on education? And, you know, have you got any takes on what you would do or you would give back to a younger generation? Like, what are your just general views about education at the moment?
Yeah, so school, as we know, the system is old. It needs rejigging. It needs new, fresh content coming into education. However, what I do think is still really important of school is your ability to try, even if you don't like something, your ability to respect your teachers and the people around you and your classmates. I do still think school can teach a lot of really valuable things to kids. I also don't believe in everybody should start a business and be an entrepreneur. I think you've either got that natural flair like you were talking about or you haven't, you know. Society does still need people who are employed in jobs, being doctors, nurses, you know, doing incredible things. I think it's about nurturing your children's talents and what you think is naturally coming out. And so if they are struggling at school, find something else that they're good at and bring out their confidence in that skill instead. Yeah. It's not about shutting people down and being like, you know, you're thick, you're stupid, you can't do maths, you can't do English. Find something and instill confidence and self-esteem to try different avenues. I think that's really important. And I think that's a big, important role in being a parent.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I've got a 9-year-old boy and I push him to do whatever he wants to do. And, you know, whatever he's happy doing, I'm happy. And I think also it's just giving, because there is a lot of information out there in the world. Like we have an abundance of information that we can tap into, which is awesome. But at the same time, there is a lot of faff out there.
Yeah, overload.
There is an overload. And I think it comes down to your environment and who you're learning from. And also seeing the proof in the pudding. I think that's so important nowadays, is that if we're learning from people, you have to know that person's been there and done it. Like Mark Wright said it perfectly. You know, you never take advice about money from someone who's got less money than you. It's just like common sense. So I think this whole sort of like low self-esteem, not knowing if you can do it, that does come a lot from socials now, doesn't it? Sort of like seeing a lifestyle and thinking, oh my God, you know, I'm 21 and how come I'm not driving a Lambo and stuff like that, which knocks people's self-esteem. And it's tough, isn't it? Like, how do we balance giving something a go, learning, whilst also kind of putting the blinkers on to what we're seeing on socials? Because I want to say this, I know you're in property, but I could say a few people who hold up a pair of fucking keys every day and they go, I've just bought a house. Yeah. Oh my God, it's rent to rent. Cut the fucking crap and be honest and be authentic and transparent. It's bullshit. Unless mummy and daddy are loaded. Like, there's a lot of that, isn't there? Like, I mean, how many people do we see holding up a pair of keys in property? It really irritates me, but but there is a lot there, as you probably gathered. Let an agent. But there is a lot of that, isn't there? So where's this fine balance of what we consume and what we don't?
I think it's trial and error purely. I think you need to figure out what feels good to you and when and really notice and tune in on when you're starting to feel more negative towards it than positive. When I start to feel negative, I kind of reassess who I'm following and who's showing on my feed. Yeah. I'm like, okay, why am I feeling like this? Am I comparing myself to this girl who's face-tuned her waist and her body to look like somebody that she's not? Am I triggered by posts? That's a big one that I find. Actually, I'm bothered by something because it's something that I need to fix within myself. And also, just know that when your mind is starting to go down that downward hill of taking a break from it, I will quite regularly just delete the app for like 5 days and just have a little bit of a break and then come back to it with fresh eyes.
I think that's really needed. When I took 7 months, I did take 7 months off Instagram, but it was because I lost my first account, which I got quite big. I had so many of these fake accounts, and then it ended up, I never got it back. So I took 7 months off Instagram, and I hadn't had TikTok at this point.
Okay.
Or I was kind of on YouTube, but just sort of slowly plugging away. And I'll tell you what, I came back and I'm so disconnected. Like, I rarely like anyone's post. Unless someone is at the top of my feed, I don't really hit like. I might hit like because you don't stop bloody sending me them, but all the time. But I'm very disconnected, and I think that's a healthy way to look at it, because I think knowing that you're content in yourself, and also knowing like reality, I know it's not realistic for me just to fuck off and go to Dubai, because I have too much going on.
Yeah.
I can't just go here and buy a Rolex, because that money will go into something else.
Yeah.
So I know the reality behind it. So I'm very content in what I'm using socials for. I think a lot of people are watching and they're consuming opposed to not creating. How's your sort of mindset with socials? Are you disconnected? And if you are, sort of, has that been through anything or?
No, I'm not there yet.
No.
I'm not like you've just said. No, I do still definitely compare myself. I do still definitely have those days where I feel like everyone on there does my head in.
Yeah.
But I think it's more about figuring out how and if you do want to use socials for more business, and if you do, really focusing in on the amazing opportunities that you can get off the platforms. As you know, even you talking about TikTok the other week with me very briefly, I was like, wow, okay, I seriously need to think about this.
Yeah, so you could smash it because you're already, a lot of people hold back because they're like, oh, the camera, the content, what do I create? Like, you've got huge amounts of content. You're already comfortable in front of the camera. That's why I said to you, 6 months. I can't stress it enough. Without saying my financials, like six months, you can seriously look at what else you're doing and going, okay, I'm a bit confused because I've spent 8 years doing that. And that's just like Luke Vernon said, like, we're doing one deal and I've earned the average UK salary in a day. Julius Dean was earning $80,000 to $100,000 a day. We know some other people that are earning 30,000. People will go in the comments, oh, it's a scam, you can't earn 30,000. No, I mean, you can. Like, it's legit.
And it's interesting because
these
marketing budgets, sorry to interrupt
you
there.
No, go for it.
These marketing budgets used to be in TV. They used to be for billboards. They used to be for adverts. But people's focus now around consumer social marketing and creators it's £1 billion industry now, and only rising. It's
crazy. So what I am going to say, we'll do a part 2.
Shall we check in and
what I'm saying
God.
in part 2, we'll have a look and you'll be like, well, I did do my 4th post.
No, I'm going to be consistent. Consistent is my 2023 word. Have you got a 2023 word?
Look, I haven't even built up 2023 to be too much. My birthday's another day. Every day is just another day. I've got a huge amount of hours in the day. I think we're both aligned. Me and Paul speak every single day, and we just go get it. I don't worry about what other people do. I'm not going to look at 2023 with huge amounts of goal. I'm just going to go do it. I've just got horse blinkers on the whole time. I'm not bothered about what other people are up to. We have this conversation a lot because there's a few individuals that, when some people just watch you. I mean, I've had a lot of people recently ride my back. But the point is... Explain.
Yeah.
I mean, there was protection. But is that I'm just not bothered. I'm just not bothered. And so 2023 is, I'm excited about it. And I think everyone else should be excited about it, because if you can move quick, you can take opportunity, be likable, have no chip on your shoulder, just go get it, put in the yards, doors will open that you never thought were possible. And normally financials catch up. So what is your experience when I say the word front end work? So a lot of people watching this will be like, how? But just to say that a lot of people that get rewarded financially or build any type of business in any industry, there was a lot of front end work that was put in that people don't see and that you're not paid for. Have you felt that kind of like where you've done things and you're just thinking, oh my God, when's this going to pay off? Like, have you felt that feeling before?
So auditioning as a performer is very much like that. because you go to about 20 auditions until you get your first yes, you've got a job. So there was constant front end work. Yeah, there was like going to classes, putting yourself in front of producers, directors, choreographers, networking, meeting people, doing jobs for free, doing jobs for exposure, which I just hate now.
Yeah.
But you did do it at the time. I did that as well as a presenter to gain some experience. Took a couple of jobs for free, and shadowed people. I think you can do too much of that, but I also think that sometimes that can be so valuable, more so than going to uni to study a course. If you can shadow someone who's super successful in doing what you want to do, and you can take, you know, a little apprentice role or something with someone, it's so valuable.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do get that, and you do get a lot of it
I think,
in my industry.
yeah, I think following someone or working under someone who's been really successful, again, going back to like proof of concept and learning from them hands-on, I think is probably one of the ways to speed up your journey. You know, having someone to say to you, jump now, or, you know, you need to do this, or this is what I done. I think that's really valuable. And luckily for me, that's kind of where I took things, is I just ended up meeting really good people. And I think then you change your circles, which opens up your eyes, and you're like, okay, if I do more of this,
Yeah.
then
Changes your mindset.
yeah, it becomes very powerful. How have you dealt with, you mentioned about comparison, there's a lot of comparison in the world, there's a lot of fake validation, you know, wanting to receive likes. And just quickly on my part is where I mean I'm disconnected, I'm bothered about engagement. Like I want engagement where I can add value. And I would say I'm rare in the sense that if there's any hate or negativity, I actually thrive in it a little bit, probably a little bit too much. Like I'm just, my skin is extremely thick. Like you know, I don't think there's really much that would bother me, but so I kind of I'll welcome it all to the algorithm basically, but giving out good value. When we are in this world of comparison, how have you dealt with sort of bad days? Like what have been some of your bad days where has it knocked you off track, or how do you deal with some of the lower days?
Yeah, well, as a performer, pretty much my whole career was around my image and how I looked as a performer. You were weighed on jobs. You were weekly weighed to make sure that you didn't increase or decrease. So I had to change that mindset once I eventually stopped performing, and was like, you know, it's not all about competition of how you look and how big you are. So there was a bit of a relationship with liking myself for who I am, which I'm still working on, but it's a lot better. And then in terms of property, my very first deal that I did alone was like soul destroying in terms of stress. I'd come from a career where, you know, I'd been pretty successful. I'd done really well in my industry and performing, to like hundreds of £1,000s of debt and money on my head from loans, raising finance for a deal, builders doing things wrong, not having the correct certificates for things, builders just going missing and going off site and leaving a job, a huge bridging loan on my head, the house falling through twice in terms of sales. So yeah, there has been a lot of stress and a lot of dark days. I guess it's just surrounding yourself with the right people to help you. And I've found that now I'm a lot more resilient in terms of finding solutions to things. So rather than me just crumbling and having a cry, I mean, I still do that a lot. I am more of a, okay, how do we figure it out? Like you basically, the life of a property investor or developer is just problem solving every day of like, okay, there's this to fix, there's this to fix, this one's not here, we're overpriced, we're underpriced, we're missing this material, it's gone up by this much. You know, there's so many variables and you're constantly juggling it. So it's definitely helped me to be more of a positive mindset for sure.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's important what you consume also helps
so
towards
important.
that. And if it doesn't, you block it. I mean, that's why we've got the block button, is because we all love to see, we mentioned this earlier, but we love to see, sad music and, a nice quote and a word. But if I'm seeing 4 or 5 of those, all 4 of them are going, because I don't need it. It's like, I don't listen to the news. My old dear will go, oh my God, did you see about those children? Mum, I don't want to know. I don't want to know, because all it's going to do is just take me off track. And I just think, again, horse blinkers, focus on what you're doing. And on those bad days, and believe me, we've all had them, is that you really do need to stay as positive as possible in that moment and to keep moving forward, because like you said, problem solving is daily.
Yeah.
And I mean, my God, like the podcast, when we'll organise 5 guests and you get like 2 guests that have cancelled, or, train strikes and you've got to reorganise it. It's constantly problem solving, it's insane. How have you found, so in property, in business, in front of the camera, whether it's professionally or just doing it yourself, it's very full on. Like, I'm a big believer in, if you're going to go for something, don't just half-arse it, go in for it. But that can be really tough on relationships, especially as people are still struggling from COVID. How have you found the business world, the property world, and personal relationships?
Okay. So business relationships I've found have gone strength to strength to strength since COVID, because I started interviewing people through Instagram Lives and created a really nice network on there. So once everybody then was able to meet in person and the world opened up again, there were so many people to meet in person. So I feel like that went really well and still is going really well. I've met some wonderful people in our industry. Personal wise, I've got some amazing friends around me that are like family. My family are all in the north in Liverpool, so I don't see them a lot, probably every other month. And then in terms of like a personal relationship, I am single, and I think I'm single for a reason, being I don't have the time or the capacity right now to get it all into my head, and right now the other stuff is I'm choosing for it to come first.
Yeah. Do you think, okay, so interesting, do you think that that's a problem on our part? Like, is that really a good thing? Because there's 2 sides to this. If you don't go all in and you don't give it your all, selfishly, you'll never be truly fulfilled. I think if you want to do more, you really got to go for it. But at the same time, if you're trying to achieve something really successful, really fulfilling, you almost want to do it for someone anyway,
Yeah.
So are we wrong in wanting it, or is there a balance? Is there an answer? Like, it's hard, isn't it?
No, I don't think there's an answer. I think it's just riding waves. I think there comes times when I'm like, okay, I'm ready to start dating again, and I do, and maybe I'll there'll be a relationship for a year or whatever. But I started out as 16. I was with someone for 5.5 years, and then I met somebody 3 weeks later and was with them for 6 years. Wow. So I spent a lot of time in a relationship.
Without a big gap.
Yeah, not a gap at all, really, yeah.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Wasn't planned. But also, that's another thing. I don't think you can plan these things. I think it happens when it happens. I just know that in business, you do have to have a reason that's bigger than you. Otherwise, what's the point? And family is a huge thing for me. I want kids. I want to get married. I want to have, that life as well. There's nothing better than love, whether it's love with your friends, your family, your partner. And, that's really why we're here on the planet. If you take it back thousands of years, you're here to find your mate. So that definitely is it is on the radar. I just haven't focused on it. I do think you still need to put effort into all those working parts as well. People who just say, oh, you're going to just one day meet the love of your life. I'm not sure if I believe that.
Yeah.
I think relationships take work, and you need to make the effort to do that just as much as building a business from day one,
Yeah, I think it takes a lot of work. Like, I think we have this script of what it was meant to be like, and obviously we're still holding on to a lot of like old narratives, what mum and dad said, and World War II, I was sitting in a trench, caught a pigeon, and I sent a letter, did the pigeon ever make it back? I don't know, but maybe it was a seagull that just had a crash landing. But
yeah,
I don't think it's as simple as what we think. I don't think anything is as simple, especially after COVID. I don't think, we were talking with a guest before, but like the ripple effects are still happening now. And I think when we look at the likes of social media, there is so much out there that I think it blinds a lot of people to what really people want. And unfortunately, I think we see a lot of money, we see a lot of flash, and maybe it clouds judgment at times. And going back to like disconnection of social media, I think it's important that you have that disconnection, because then you can really sort of like value relationships that you've still got and sort of switch off. I mean, I have to admit, I wouldn't say I've done any detoxing at the moment, but where I'm disconnected, I feel like that's my detox anyway, if you know what I mean. Like where I'm not emotionally involved, I don't have a panic attack if I don't post, sort of thing. So what would your sort of top tip to anyone watching who, younger generation, no age at all maybe, that wants to sort of really go for it, take opportunity, get in front of a camera, make the most of this year or any year? What kind of things have you learnt about yourself that you could sort of pass back down and say, this was this, or I felt like this, or, what would kind of your advice be to your younger self?
Yeah, I would definitely say to work on your mindset first and foremost, because if you don't believe in yourself and you don't believe that you can do something, nobody else is going to. And, you're not going to do what it is that you want to do. So I really wish that I could say that to my younger self. I was also bullied a little bit at school. I was moved to primary schools, and I really cared about what other people thought of me for a long time. And I think that also stems from the performing world as well, and being constantly scrutinized for your image and what you look like. And so I would definitely tell myself to care less about what other people think. I'm in a really nice place now where I'm comfortable, and I know that I believe in myself and my abilities. Not in a big-headed way, but just you do have to back yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, nobody else will. And I guess it would also be there's so much free content now out there that we weren't exposed to. YouTube, fantastic tool to learn a new skill. So take as much in as possible on whatever it is that you want to do on free channels. And get a mentor or a coach if you can afford to, because that was pinnacle for me in my property progress. I'm a little bit all over the place sometimes, so to have structure and accountability really helped me. Might not work for other people, but for me and how I learn and how my brain works, it really did help me. I know I wouldn't be here now in the situation that I am without that.
I think because everyone learns so different, and you kind of have that. Some people would say like it's a bit arrogant, to be confident or to back yourself. But I said this earlier with another guest, is that if no one else is going to,
then who is?
Then who is? You can have your partner say, "Oh, I've got to support you" and stuff like that. But I wouldn't say, necessarily. I use the dark moments sound quite doom and gloom, but the dark moments of losing deals, worrying about money, stress, is it all worth it? Going through that little day of imposter syndrome, like they're tough. Like mentally, it's tough. And then you open, and you're sitting there, and we're so quick to open up, and we're like, "Oh my God, I can't stay." Fucking bought another Rolex. Who's holding keys again? Oh my God, give me a break. It's like it's all compounding like pressure, and you're like, "Fuck, am I doing enough?" and stuff like that. So you have to be the one to go, "Actually, do you know what? I'm gonna fucking do this."
Yeah.
And you do. And some people go cocky shit, but if no one else is going to back you, you have to back yourself.
Yeah.
I was going to say, what does, as we sort of come to a close, what does success look like to you? Because success is seen in so many different ways. For me, it's the journey of just being able to sit here and talk with you and stuff like this. Like that's a bonus opposed to riding a forklift.
Yeah.
What does success or the end goal look like to you? Like, what do you want?
So success for me is probably quite different to a lot of people's idea of success, but I love a slow pace of life and really just enjoying simple things like sitting on my balcony in the morning with my dog, who I'm obsessed with. She's not even properly mine. She's adopted. And just enjoying that moment. But when you're in business in the first part of it, you can't really live like that if you want to grow quickly. So I would like to get to a point where I'm really choosing what I do with my time, and I'm enjoying all the little things. And I don't think I want to live in the UK either. So eventually I'd like to be somewhere in the sun, and enjoying, a slower pace of life.
Nice. Sounds nice. Nice and calm,
Yeah,
away from
calm.
stress,
Yeah.
less in your face, and being more like aware of what's around you and enjoying it. I mean, look, I can sum me up. I like Coronation Street. That sums me up in one. I like, although actually I haven't watched a few episodes. Well, I haven't watched a few episodes for a while, but I like Coronation Street. Little fact there.
So that's your little wind down.
Well, I like wine as well. Winding down, wine with winding down. If anyone wanted to reach out, find out more about you or what you're doing, or just touch base, like where's the best place for them to go?
So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, I will be on TikTok.
Well, you're on there, you just need to post.
I am on there, yeah, but it's Elizabeth Warburton across all the platforms, or you can email me as well, hello@elizabethwarburton.com.
Awesome. I'll stick it all in the description.
Thank
and everyone who has watched so far, thanks so much. We'll see you all very soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.